Okay, thanks. So this meeting is Tuesday, November 15th, and we have 6 participants of the Wilf Border and Migration Justice Subcommittee. And we just did our check-ins. We are in and we're the first order of business would be an agenda review. Does anybody have anything they want to add to the agenda? Okay. So where it stands right now, the bilingual brochure, we have recognized a mutual wish to create a beautiful color brochure that is completely bilingual, possibly with Adrian's recognition that we would have to condense it some. But in terms of time and, decision making and getting it out into people's hands, it would be best just to take what he has done and condense that into something that we could be on a double-sided page and send it out to whoever would want it. And we don't have anyone as of yet, as far as I know, that has done that. It's on the it's in our in our to-do boxes, and whenever someone is ready to pick that up, I may have time in December, I'm not sure, to work on it myself, but that's where that one is.
Well, my hand is raised, Tina.
Thanks, Teresa. You go next.
I'm feeling a bit disturbed about this brochure. I don't know exactly what to call it, but it's like a never-ending long thing to get out an idea, which I think I initiated. And the purpose primarily was to reach out to Latinx women with the potential of drawing them into wealth. And this whole idea of use it however we want, that it does have a purpose. And that was the purpose. How can we reach women whose first language is Spanish? And Adrian is connected with a lot of women in the Atlanta area in that respect. And there are women in the Columbus area who are fully bilingual that I know, but their first language is Spanish, and they could put on this huge festival every year in September. And I had hoped that it would have been ready this past September so we could have used it. But we have got to get this show on the road and got to get this off of the drawing board. I'm not clear what the holdup is. So since Adrian is here and Rita's here, and I'm not sure who else worked on it. I think Lenny also worked with Adrian on it. So Tina, if we could hear from Adrian about what is the holdup.
Okay, I don't know what the holdup is. I mean, we're okay. We're ready to go on my part. What I heard Tina say was that they want to do a color brochure. Well, I don't know. I mean, it seems that someone needs to reduce the English enough to make the Spanish fit, and then we'll be done with it. We can make it printable, and then they could become full color later. But there's some, I haven't looked at it in a while, but I think like page 7, 8, that has like says how to subscribe to the organization. It says a couple of things twice in that area that we don't need to repeat, so we could gain some space there, some real estate. And then just go through it. I am not qualified to edit, the English because that's SWIFT's territory, and I'd hate to leave something out that somebody would think is important. So I think that would be somebody else to decide what to cut out. That's where we're at.
Well, Adrian, it means that you working with whoever the English speaker is, it could be Lenny, since she's fully bilingual. The reason I hooked up you and Lenny, because Lenny has a lot of experience in will. And if the two of you can finish this off on the language issue so it can go to print, it needs to be finalized. And you were like the primary point person on it, Adrian. And so you and Lenny working together were supposed to finish it off.
Mm.
So is that something you're willing to do?
Teresa, can I jump in before Adrian answers? It sounds like you're talking about a color brochure, right? That you want to finish up?
No, I don't know anything about the color piece.
Okay.
It was the language issue in
The language
terms
issue.
of the
Okay.
aesthetics. In terms of the aesthetics about it, I understand Diane Blay and a bunch of other people had gotten involved in that. But if there are issues around the language content, which Adrian just identified, then that should be resolved because printing it and whether or not it's in color is quite minor. But the issue of the language content is central because we want to be able to use it with Spanish speakers and that it has the information that would be appropriate to use as a recruitment tool.
Okay. So
Okay,
the
go ahead.
it does sound like you were talking about the regular brochure that we have, though, to use, if you, because if and that there are some obstacles that Diane and other people pointed out. One is that the brochure might need updating in addition to the language. There are other things, because it hasn't been updated, let's say in a few years, but like, for example, the AHR committee is, may not be on there. So people don't want to go through a big expense of updating a brochure, just making the Spanish language changes if there are other changes that need to be done. Now, before that's regardless, we can get the link, just on a plain, black and white piece of paper without the photos. We can do that with what Adrian has done. And that could be used as an insert to our present brochure. Is that, although we know, we have discussed, I know you weren't at the meeting last week, that's not ideal. It communicates something in terms of how important we think this is, and it's not ideal. And so some people might not want to do that at all. But last month we decided to go forward with that option, because the other option of a full-blown brochure, which is actually 8-sided, would involve the membership development committee. So it would involve people beyond this committee. Does that make sense?
Well, no, it doesn't.
Okay.
Because it seems to be a way of avoiding what was the original project, because we've allowed everybody from whatever bureaucratic level exists in the organization to intervene on what was a diversity, inclusion, equity project. And I give out those brochures all the time. I have a stack of them with me now as I travel around inviting English speakers to join WILP. There is not a lot of stuff about all the committees and all of that in the brochure, not the brochure I'm talking about. There's a timeline the brochure was updated
Mm.
recently to take us to 2022. It is a very clear, just this is what WILF is. This is how WILF got started. This is what WILF is about. It is not a list of all the committees or any of that stuff. It's just not there in the brochure. It is one side of the brochure that has the text, the timeline, and the other side is just a color cosmetic thing. I know the brochure.
Okay.
It is the brochure that I gave them. I think this is outrageous, what this has become. It was a simple matter of translating the text in the current brochure. That's all.
Yeah, I agree with Teresa.
Okay.
Because I think that, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. There's no committees. Once we get, the language down so it'll fit on an 8-sided thing, it's ready to go.
Right.
They might want to look at it and, they've got time. I mean, we'll get it out there, as soon as we can, but, I mean, I'll cut up I'm an editor because I do English stuff. Yeah, that's the one, I think.
That's the
And,
one. Okay, I see
we'll turn
it.
it over. Let me see the timeline. You're
Yeah.
facing the timeline. Yeah, that's the one. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I edit my stuff all the time. I can edit the English to make it fit. The biggest problem is going to be finding the person that has all of those elements that made that brochure.
Yeah.
Because it's in
Well,
Photoshop,
Uh,
and if we can do that, then
Yeah.
we're going to need a person who's which I'm not, a graphic artist that will be able to, because it's in layers, and take the English layer off and then put a
Yeah.
couple of English, Spanish layers on. It will be time consuming for whoever is the graphic artist for WILF, but
Well, from what I understand, Adrian, I think it was Chris Wilbeck. When I want to get some of the brochures, I call her. She is the administrator based in Iowa. And if anybody knows how that brochure came together, it would be Chris Wilbeck.
Right.
So she is a go-to person for all of this print stuff. Whenever I want anything like that, I simply call her up in Iowa.
Right.
Because the whole idea of updating it so that the 2022 got in there, I think she took responsibility for that. We need to get the show on the road, and I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to call up, since I know Adrian, because I know what your skill set is, and I know that whole thing of translating it is something that you could do. And Lenny agreed to be involved with that. So I will, if the graphics issue is an issue, I will simply call up Chris Wilbeck tomorrow, which is Wednesday. She only works 2 days a week, Wednesday and Thursday. And I
Okay.
will be happy to call her and explain to her where we are with the brochure, because these little quick updates on it, like we were getting ready to leave this topic without resolving what the holdup is. And now that we know what the holdup is, I will follow through, Tina, since
Okay.
it was my idea in the first place. I will follow through with Chris Wilbeck to find out how we get all of this together so that it's respectful when we hand it to women who are Latinx and their first language is Spanish. So it would look like we really are welcoming them.
That sounds great. I thought there was another name involved in terms of the graphic artist. So if you get that name, I'll be happy to follow up.
No,
And-
no. I will
Okay.
do it, Tina.
You will follow up. Perfect. Okay.
I will do it.
Great.
Rita's hand is up.
Sorry. Not trying to take anything off track. And I haven't been following this closely, but in regards to the brochure and passing out the brochures, is there an infrastructure set up that'll handle any responses, requests for information and things like that? Is somebody gonna be, that's Spanish speaking, be able to follow up on the contacts that people have questions that they might want to ask before they join, or anything like follow-ups or anything? I'm just
So-
wondering.
Well, Rita, it is basically one-on-one organized. It's not just give it out willy-nilly. It's based on the relationships, Rita, that some of us have with organizations of women whose first language is Spanish. So those of us who can use it, not everybody will be able to use it.
Mhm.
If you were in the US, I know you have a wide range of people that you could use it with. I do where I live in Columbus. I know that Adrian does. I'm not sure who else does, but it would be available to members who can have that ability to recruit in that way. I know people in DC, so in the DMV branch, there are people who can connect with Spanish speakers. So it is a matter of targeted recruitment. It's not just giving it out to people we don't know. This is about relationships we already have.
Okay. Okay, you answered my question.
Yeah, and
Thank-
other people had that question as well, Rita, and were you know, expressed the same concern, and as a committee, we discussed what Teresa is saying, that nobody's gonna be forced to make it, and those branches and individuals that have access to the infrastructure to, you know, whether it be through, you know, the personal contacts or whatever, can use it, and then we can, you know, basically push, you know, if it works, if there's, you know, people wanting that, then that will push the bigger organization as we do our, you know, one-on-one organizing. So,
Okay, good enough. Thank
Mhm.
you.
I just want to add in that there were some discussions about if you're a Spanish person, I mean, a Spanish speaking person, and then you go to the website, that it wasn't in Spanish, it was just in English. And so I suggested that an easy fix for that would be to talk to the person who does the website, because they can add a little box in the corner that says, do you want to translate this? So if that, I don't know how it works, but if you can add those to the pages of the website in English, then it'll be in Spanish or any language you want to do a pull down menu on. So that goes up another level, because you got to talk to the webmaster.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be. And I did look on the website and I saw who it was that was doing the website. So they're approachable, but somebody
Right.
else can call
they
them.
are doing a
you,
new one that should be up like in January. I wasn't quite sure what you were talking about, if it was a program, but now that you're talking about it, I understand it's more the box. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I will bring that up to the people who are working on it.
great, thanks.
Well, the national board meeting is coming up on the 29th, and that would be a good time to raise this. As a matter of fact, having it on the agenda would probably be good, so that we don't waste any more time, because the guy, Glenn, he takes direction from Darian, and only Darian. So this would have to be something that the board agrees to. And so it really needs to be put in that context. And I think, as we have in the past, showing up, those of us who are Black, Indigenous, people of color, who have shown up at the board meetings on these type issues before. This board meeting in November would be a good place to try to settle this question of the brochure, because in my point of view, for all of these months, it's just been going in circles. And I think that it can get settled this month, so that the website issue, which is extremely important, Adrian, so that when people go to the website, they will see that it's not only the glossy brochure, but there's a real commitment for Spanish speakers showing at the website. That's an extremely important point, Adrian, and I'm glad you brought it up. So we need to make sure that there's that level of continuity between those of us who will actually be recruiting and organizing using the brochure, so that people, when they go to the website, because quite a few of the people, quite frankly, I think may be bilingual, or they will be bilingual people working with maybe Spanish only speakers, because I will be working with other people who are bilingual to help with this inclusion process. And I think different folks will have different strategies. Since Adrian is fully bilingual, he can work directly with folks in the Atlanta area, and other folks who are bilingual can do that. I'll be working with other people who are bilingual, that I know, who I want to be a part of WILF in the Columbus area. Thank you.
Thank you.
So are we ready to move on to the next item, Tina?
Yeah, I think so. Do you want to make a request that this be on the board agenda? Do you want me to?
No, I will do that.
Okay.
I'm in regular contact with Diane Blay, and she already has me down as
Got it.
attending the meeting. And so I could talk with Diane or Darian about it.
All right, thank you. The next on the agenda is the getting together with Limpal, Mexico, which Melissa has suggested. I think between her traveling, her schedule, and my schedule, we have not been able to narrow that down, but I do think that January is a reasonable time frame for that. And I think the other thing would just be to really, I think, decide on timing and decide on agenda. I think our original goal is just to, begin to meet each other and talk about if there are some mutual areas that we would like to, work together on. So that's kind of, nice and broad. And I can open it up right now to if anybody else has any thoughts about what should be included in the planning for that meeting.
Tina, I'm not sure I understand the purpose of the meeting. Could you please describe that?
The purpose of the meeting is just to have a mutual gathering, get to know each other, and then as we get to know each other and recognize that we might have some mutual things that we would want to work on, just kind of to think about that. Not necessarily that would be the first, like a huge priority, but just to leave that as an option that we might want to work together. So the goal of the meeting would be to meet each other.
Well, it's too bad that Melissa isn't here, because I know that she's been working cross border, and I like to think that she would have something a bit more substantive since the U.S. section has often paid the dues for the Mexico section to the international. And so that's something I do know about, the actual existing relationship between the U.S. section and the Mexico section. But also something happened in the last few days where the president, I guess you would say, of Mexico has put forward a proposal for diplomacy to end the Ukraine-Russia conflict. And so lots of groups are signing on to this letter. So that's something to find out more about. But I will get up with Melissa since her mother passed. I haven't really talked with her, but hopefully she's doing okay. But I'll be glad to try to find out what her thinking is about the bilateral relationship building between the U.S. section and the Mexico section, because I would like to think that it has more of a purpose than let's just get to know each other. So I'll see what Melissa is thinking about what could come out of it.
Okay, I know that she was in Cuba, but she's back now, so that's fine. I am realizing that there was something, I got an email late in the day today and I didn't add it to the agenda. And that is that the creators, the webmasters of the new website have asked us to have each subcommittee to include an action-oriented item. I didn't actually open up the document and see what it looked like, but they are asking us to, by early December, to have some kind of action that might come out of our particular group. I think that we could probably brainstorm what that might be. Probably there are a few things that are still going to be issues, and it would be something would be, like late January, early February timeframe. So, some of the things that we might be looking at in that timeframe.
Well, I don't think we need to be making up stuff just to accommodate a website issue request. We're working on the brochure, and that is a major thing. I saw the request from Donna, and we worked on articles that got submitted and showed up in the Peace and Freedom magazine, and it shows that we're doing work. But just to work on something to go up to a website, it's something that makes no sense. We see what we're struggling with. We're struggling with finding purposeful things to do with this subcommittee. And the most important thing I thought of was the brochure, and we have that going. This meeting with the bilateral U.S. Mexico section, it's about what we already have going. Like Disarm has a whole lot of stuff going, so they can put up their stuff because it is real. I don't see us brainstorming and making up stuff that we're not doing yet just to go up on a website. We have two things that have been discussed this evening. And if they're at a state, if we finish the brochure, that certainly can go up there as something. It would be a major accomplishment. We don't have to make up stuff.
I didn't mean make it up. Sorry, I meant just that, like we've talked about Title 42 and other things. George, your hand was up.
Yes, and I agree with Teresa in terms of having something substantial that we could share also in that email Darian sent, she didn't say, Tina, that it's something that would be an action for January. She described it as something that would, I don't have the right word for it, but something that would last, had some,
Durable, huh?
yeah, something that would be there for a minute. So in that case, the brochure makes sense because if
Yeah.
it's ready, the action is recruit people, women who for whom Spanish is their first language.
Yeah.
That's the action.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I really wanted to add is she wanted something that would, have a shelf life on the website for some time.
No,
That's all.
that sounds good. Um, the other thing, we kind of have a little tradition about sharing immigration and border news in your corner of the world. And I wanted to share that although some of you may have heard me talk about it or seen in the email, Journey for Justice is coming out of the group Witness at the Border. Sorry, Josh Rubin, I think. Yes, Josh Rubin is his name. So they've planned a action, which would be traveling the Rio Grande, beginning in Brownsville, going to San Isidro. I might not be saying that right. From December 2nd to the 17th, all with the aim of, his words are witness, just kind of say what is going on at the border and creating more information so people know what's happening firsthand and disseminating that information. So wanted to share that so that if you're a social media type person, you want to share that, then you can do so.
Oh, Adrian, speak. I've been seeing stuff about SOA Watch and stuff you're doing at the border.
Yeah.
So is there something that's going on?
Yeah, there is. There is a trial for a young man that was killed by Border Patrol agents a while back, but the trial has come up again. I have to find it, but and then last month we were down at the border commemorating the 10th anniversary of the killing of Jose Antonio Elena Rodriguez. And it was an SOA Watch action, and that was well attended. So yeah, I can send you all that article. It seems like it might be going to Supreme Court. I'm not sure.
The trial is not the same person that was killed 10 years ago. This is a different person, right?
It's a different person because that one 10 years ago went to the Supreme
It
Court
did go to the Supreme Court, right? Okay.
and they shot it down, and I don't know why they're doing that now,
Okay.
but I can find out.
Right. Yeah, that would be good to share. Thank you. I remember when you shared it earlier.
I'm gonna have to go. I'm sorry. I have a in-person meeting to go to next, but
Okay.
it's great seeing y'all, and I'll look for the recording.
I have something to share that's not great news, but I do want to share it because it's on point. In 2017, 2018, in Asheville and Charlotte, they passed ordinances that would limit exactly what is likely to happen here in North Carolina now, limit that the local police cannot do the work of ICE. I got a call yesterday, from Cecil Bothwell. He was our champion on the Asheville City Council. And he says that because, the ordinance hasn't been either renewed or made policy, that it can get challenged and struck down. I don't know if that's the case for Charlotte too, and Durham had something similar, although the organization I worked for wasn't involved as much with the Durham piece. But the language exists, Samantha, and we may be able to figure out how to get city councils to pass that ordinance. But Cecil said to try to pass it as a, I'm gonna have to go back and figure out what he said about it. He said not an ordinance, but a X, which is akin to policy and has to be followed and can't be struck down. An ordinance isn't actionable, is what he was saying,
Mm,
in the same way that a law is. It's
Okay.
a suggestion, it's not the law. So he
mhm.
said what we got was a recommendation to the city council and the city of Asheville. It wasn't a mandate. So we have to work on that part of it, but we do have the language.
Asheville, that was the part I missed. Okay, thanks.
That's all.
And since I'm still here, in Atlanta, what we did was to repeal, what was it called, 287G. We got two new sheriffs elected, one in Gwinnett and one in Cobb County, because it was at the discretion of the sheriff. And they ran on saying they were going to get rid of 287G. Gloria did that. That's all I'll add to that. And I'll say good night.
All right, 287G,
Bye.
okay.
Good night. Yes, 287G is evil.
I do want to say something about Durham, because I was a part of the ordinance that got passed. And an ordinance is law. A resolution is not. And the resolutions have to be renewed or looked at again. But an ordinance is a law. Like we passed an anti-sweatshop ordinance, and every year it has a living wage component. And because we had to get a state law passed in order to give Durham the exception of taking something other than the lowest bidder, which is North Carolina law. But the immigration ordinance says that the city of Durham will not discriminate on the basis of immigration status. That was the law, which is an ordinance that was passed in 2003, and it is very much on the books. And it also incorporated the idea that the police department does not work for ICE. And so we actually got rid of a police chief who seemed to have been violating that ordinance. And so, because ICE throws around a lot of money, which really draws police departments, sheriff's departments into their web. But Durham has a very strong, we will not discriminate on the basis of immigration status. So when domestic violence calls, etc., no discrimination on the basis of immigration status. Everybody gets services. Everybody gets what they get and what everybody else gets. If you're a resident of Durham, you will not be discriminated on the basis of your immigration status. I was a part of passing that ordinance, and it is very strong on the books. Durham is known for doing that sort of thing.
Here,
So that's why it's very important. If it's not an ordinance, which is just a way of saying a city law, but resolutions get passed all the time, and in many cases they're non-binding resolutions. And it sounds like that's a problem that you may have in Asheville. But the Durham ordinance is a model for saying we will not, and that mainly came out of El Centro Hispano. They led it. And when it was under attack at one point by somebody who was running for mayor, we showed up and fought for it. So that is solidly an ordinance. It can be overturned, but not without a vote of city council. And there's no way the Durham City Council is ever gonna vote down that ordinance.
Thanks.
Over.
Yes, I remember that, Teresa. I
Oh,
remember.
yeah. Was it, and we remember that robocall that came out. Oh, the immigrants are coming, the invaders are coming. Oh, they
Yeah.
used to do crazy stuff in Durham. But Durham will smack down that kind of foolishness, that kind of xenophobia. I love Durham.
Mhm.
None of that craziness is gonna go down in Durham. Absolutely not.
I may be here in Mexico, but my heart still belongs in Durham.
Yeah, it felt so good being in Durham for a day and a half. And so things are still rolling along. But people do fight back. It's so much good stuff. Uh, um, we'll talk about it at some point around the housing stuff, Rita, that's going on. $40 million to the housing authority to create affordable housing for folks in Durham and get them out of this dump that was there. I heard that on the news today.
Mm.
So Durham is the most progressive city in North Carolina by far. Well, Tina, don't let me go on and
Yeah,
on.
yep. I want to I have one more housekeeping business to do. So I want to, does anybody else have anything before we finish up with some housekeeping? Samantha or Rita or,
I'm good.
okay.
I'm good.
All right, thanks. So I have a conflict on the third Tuesday with our branch meeting that is, there are some other people that can't do other Tuesdays other than the third. We have to do the third Tuesday, and so I'm having some conflicts. And so I was wondering, number one, to look at December, which Tuesday would be best, and then if, you know, just also just checking in if Tuesdays are still good. Obviously, for the people that are here, pretty good. But what other Tuesday could we look at for next meeting, our December meeting?
Tina,
Yes.
what time does the branch meeting happen?
Well, our branch is alternating between afternoon and evening. Sometimes it's at 3:30, sometimes at 6:30. And I have prep that I have to do and, you know, cook my dinner for my family in between. I feel like I really need to switch this meeting off of the third Tuesday.
Well, do you have a proposal for a Tuesday that works better for you?
Well, I mean, I could do the second, I could do the fourth, I could next month is a little tricky because there's holidays, but the second Tuesday is the 13th. The fourth Tuesday would be the 27th, which, I mean, sometimes I think we may have taken off in December just because it can be a little tough. And I know you have a big event in December, so
Well, December 13th is great. It will be 3 days after my big event, which I did want to make an announcement about.
okay.
So I'm perfectly fine with the 13th.
Okay.
The city council in Columbus meets on the fourth Tuesday in the evenings. So I would want to avoid the fourth
The fourth.
Tuesday evenings.
Thank you
So
all.
the second,
Anybody else want to weigh in?
I like the second Tuesday too.
Second
the
Tuesday, thank
13th.
you.
Works for me.
It'll be early enough that we'll miss all of the I'm in Christmas mode thing. So if we're settled on when our next meeting is December 13th, because I think we really do need to have one to finalize the issues around the brochure. So,
Sounds good.
on December 10th, the second annual Fannie Lou Hamer Branch Human Rights Conference will take place via Zoom. And the via Zoom part will be 9 a.m. Eastern time to 10:30 a.m. And it's going to include Patrick O'Neill and Vicki Elson speaking on the TPNW, and Eleanor Holmes Norton and other members of the Congressional Black Caucus in Georgia are being asked to participate. And so George is putting the Zoom link. Are you putting the registration link? Great. So people, George has worked on this with folks. And so we have the registration link. We're also having an in-person meeting in Columbus that's going to be on ending mass incarceration. So maybe George announced that on yesterday at the meeting. Because when we meet in December, it will be after the event, and we'll be talking about what a great time we had in Durham in person from 11 a.m. to 2 on the same day. But the meeting that Wolf people should plan to come to is a TPNW event with Rebecca Irby will be the moderator, and we'll have the incomparable Vicki Elson and Patrick O'Neill as the main speakers. So that's happening December 10th on Human Rights Day.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. So it's our 1-hour meeting.
Yep, we're wrapping up.
So we're all set.
We'll see you all on the 13th and probably talk to some of you via email before, and definitely I want to register for the 10th. So thanks.
Oh, good. Well, I'll be in touch with Diane Blay right now so
Okay.
that she understands. Thank you.
All right, y'all. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Take care. Enjoy the
Bye.
warmth of Mexico, Rita.
Oh,
So
well,
jealous.
actually, it's a little cool right now because of the breeze coming off the ocean, but I still love it.
Aw.
And I just signed up for the y'all's event on the 10th, so
Wonderful. Thank you, Rita.
you're welcome. You're welcome.